All right, now that we've pretty much got the base of the game, next up, we're going to be working with a few new concepts in Godot. So let's just make a new folder and call it global. And this is basically just going to hold any global folders or things that we have. So it's not just going to be a global variable, but global scripts. So we're going to make one script called game. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to duplicate this and call it utils for utility. All right, in the game folder, we're going to go over here. We're going to delete all this and just call it, or we're going to write variable. Let's see, what do we want as a global variable? Let's say player HP equals 10. No, not key 10, just 10. And then variable player MP is equal to 5. Or actually, we'll say player, or just gold equals 10 or 0, because gold should start at 0, not key 0. Silly Godot. All right. Next up is we're going to have to actually make this global. So how do we do that? Well, in Godot, there's actually a very easy way to do that, which is actually just to auto load it in the project settings. So head over to the project settings. Not in general, we're going to go to the top, as you can see right here in auto load. We're going to click this path over here. We're going to go to global and find our script. We're going to open it and we're going to add it. Make sure you don't forget to add it. Next up, we're going to do the same thing for utils. So we're going to add that and add it. And now we have both of these auto-loaded and now they are enabled. So let's hold it over to the utils and delete this as well. So let's take a look at what actually happened in Godot. So when I play, here's our game, but we can see in our remote section on the top left, we have root and we have game, utils, and main. Main is our actual game, right? That's what we're playing on. That's the background, the play quit button, etc. And these are the two files that we just loaded. These are the two scripts that we just loaded. They're technically scenes, but they're also a script, right? It's actually a script though. So that way we can now access these things globally from anywhere. And I'll show you how to do that in just 1 second. So next up is the saving and loading. So we're going to go through some file access in Godot. So Godot has a built-in file access functionality, and it's very, very good, and it's very simple. So we're going to go through this together and work through this easily. So the first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to create two variables called save path, and we're just going to say, we're going to give it a string, empty string for now. We're just going to have this save path. So for this save path, what we're going to be doing or using is going to be res at savegame.bin. So what this is going to be doing is, if you look at res, we can see that here, this is also called res. So this is basically going to save it in that folder. Now, usually, if you're actually releasing this game, you should do users. This is global. It works on Windows and I believe Android and I believe iOS. So for the sake of this video, we're going to be doing res, but you should and can use users instead. All right. Next up is we're going to create two functions. One is going to be the save game function. And let's pass for now. And then let's make another function called load game. All right, and let's pass in here so we don't get an error. Okay, the first thing we're going to do in our saved game is we're going to have to create a file. So to do that, we're going to say variable file equals file access dot open save path, and then we're going to write. So this is essentially going to be able to allow us to create a file. This is going to be a temporary file in the actual function. This is the actual file. This is actually where we make the file, right? But this is going to allow us to create a temporary file to actually write inside of it to actually save, right? Because here we're trying to save, so we should be writing, right? So if you actually think about this, in load, we do the same thing, but we're just going to read instead. We're not going to write it, we're going to read. So it's going to be the exact same thing, but we're just going to read instead of writing it. So next up, there's a few different ways and things to do to actually save. The way I like to do it is to save it kind of as a JSON file. And the best way to have a JSON file is to have a dictionary. And so to make a dictionary is actually quite easy. We can just say variable data is going to be, we're going to have a semicolon here. And this is going to allow us to specify what it is. So this is going to be, sorry, not data, just dictionary. And then we're going to say equals and brackets, and that's going to allow us to actually state our dictionary. You don't have to actually have this. I believe you can just remove this and just have it like that, and it'll say it's a dictionary, or Godot will assume it's a dictionary, but this allows to actually say that 100% for certainty, this is a dictionary. Okay, so the next thing we're going to want to do is make the keys and the actual value of those keys. So the first thing we want to do is we want to save our player. player HP. And to do that, we can access it by saying game.player HP. And the key we're going to save it as is the exact same thing. So we're going to say player HP as player HP. So that's usually how I make the keys. So sorry, we're going to have a semicolon here, not a comma. And then to write another one, we're just going to have a comma there. And then instead of player HP, we're going to say gold as the key. And then we're going to also save it as gold. There we go. So now we can save two values inside of a dictionary. This is a super simple and fast way to save a file. Instead of saving everything manually or saving one at a time, this is just going to allow us to save everything inside of a dictionary. And then now we're just going to store it inside of a JSON. So first we have to actually convert it to JSON. So to do that, again, we have built-in functions to do that nicely. Godot 4 has updated. So now we can just say JSON string is going to be equal to JSON.stringify data. So this is going to just basically take our data, our dictionary, and stringify it, right? And now this is the easy part. We're just going to store it. We're going to say file.store line, and that's it. So now this should actually work. So now what we can do is let's go to our main. Let's go to our function here. Let's add a function, say ready, and then we're going to say utils.saveGame. And I just copy pasted it. So now when I play it, it's going to save the game and hopefully it doesn't error. Awesome, no errors. And now what we can do is we can actually open this up and we can see that we have savegame.bin. And if we open this, I can bring it over. There we go. There's our notepad. So you can open it in Notepad and you can see here's our values. Here's our JSON data string that we made. So we have gold and player HP. So now we can close this. We don't need it. Minimize that. And that is how we save. Now, how do we load? Well, it's actually very similar. So all we have to do is check if the file exists. So if file exists, save path equals true, or we can just say if it there. I always like to specify if it's equals to true, not just have it there, but it's up to you. That's more of a coder's preference. Then what we'll add is say, if we have not reached the end of file, so this means end of file reached, we have not reached that, then we're going to start loading. So this is where we actually load. So first thing we have to do is actually create a stringify. So we have to actually read the file. To do that, we say variable current line equals JSON parse string from file.getLine. So this is going to allow us to essentially parse the string and actually read what's inside of that JSON file. So next part is we just load it. And to do that, all we have to do is say if current line, we can actually just say game.playerClass is equal to current line at this, right? So the current line will essentially take all the values that we have inside of the file and convert it into a Godot readable thing. So Godot will actually be able to read it, and then Godot will just load it in by accessing it through the array, right? So this is the key to that dictionary. Sorry, it's not an array, it's a dictionary. And that's the key to that dictionary, right? And so this is going to access this guy, right? So the saved value that we have. So let's try this out. So one note is Godot 3 used to have to close it. So I think you used to have to say file close. Oh, it's still there, but we don't have to do that anymore. So, which is actually really nice. Because if you would forget to do that, then a bunch of things would happen. So here, let's try saving it. So let's save and then load game. So now that we've loaded it, we will now save and load. This is basically the way to, what did we do here? Player class. We have to load the player HP, right? And then save the gold, make sure it's capitalized. All right, let's try one more time. Okay, so this is a fast way. When I save and load, this is a fast way to basically overwrite all our data and reset it to 0, essentially. So now what we can do is we can comment that out. And now let's go to our frog. And in our def, what we can do is say game.gold plus equals 1, or let's do 5. Okay, not key 5. Oh my God. Key 5. And then we'll say utils.saveGame. So every time we kill a frog, we'll get 5 gold and we'll also save the game. So let's actually print our gold. So let's go over here to our UI. Let's duplicate this and rename this to gold. And a quick way to make sure that we don't blunder this up is we have to make sure that the script is unique. So this script and this script are the same. So they've taken the same script. So we have to make sure that we go to one of them, any one of them, and make it unique. We can do that by going to the bottom right and just saying make unique. And now when I click it and I save it, it'll now save it as its own unique file, right? So these are built-in scripts. So we're not gonna be able to find it, but they are here and there they are on the left. And now what we can do is change this up to gold. So we can change this to gold. And then instead of printing the health, we'll print gold. And we have to actually make sure to say that this is from the global function gold. And now what we can also do is actually change this to be a global function and say game.health. And we can also say, oh no, we can just leave that. But we have to make sure that this is player HP. We'll also have to replace it in our player and frog. So here, where do we do damage? We do damage. Here we go, body.health. Instead of body.health minus equals 3, what we'll do is we'll say game.playerHealth minus equals 3. All right, lastly, we have to go back to our player and make sure that the health is actually going to look at the game.playerHealth. And now we should be able to just delete this health. We don't need it. All right, we'll just make a few lines there. All right, there we go. So now what we can do is just play and test it out. So let's play. Let's go to play. Ooh, we have to move our gold, otherwise we're not going to be able to see it. So let's go back to our world and actually move our gold down. And this should update automatically. So if I go back to my player, there we go. There's our gold. And now when I kill something, it gives me 5 gold. And now if I close it, I don't have to save or anything because every time I've killed a frog, it saves already. So now let's play and see what we get. There's our 15 gold. We've already gotten 15 gold because every time we killed it, it saved that gold. So let's take a look in our folder. Let's take a look in our file. So here we can open this up and we can see that the gold has changed. It is now 30 and our player HP is also 70, right? Or 7, sorry, because we've reduced it by 3 and we got hit. Awesome. So our files now work. That is great.